Hi, this is Stephen Meade, lifelong entrepreneur, business owner, and global speaker. Over the years, I've read hundreds of books and spent thousands of hours developing what I call the bullseye belief system. And I've used that system to develop my own companies, as well as help others learn to be specific, targeted, and focused to get exactly what they want in life. Again, I'm Stephen Meade, and this is the Bullseye Guy Podcast. Stephen Meade again, back again with another Bullseye Belief, another Bullseye Guy blog. Excited to talk to you today, coming to you from the lovely Groove Radio Studios in downtown LA. Heard it was hot last week. I'm back. Not as bad, but LA's always fun and interesting and great stuff here at Groove. What we're going to talk about today, again, if you've heard any of my story, I joke that when I was in financial services, again, not a joke, but I like to make light of it. In a period of about 6.5 years, I read 357 books. And again, every time you say that, people look at you and think, oh, that's impossible. It's really not. If you think about the math, it's a book a week for 6.5 years. And if you commit to reading one book a week, it's not that difficult to get through it. The trick and the challenge is to dissect what is in the book that actually becomes implementable. What can you do to change your habits or your patterns or make things different? It's a Tony Robbins principle of building day after day. He has programs that try and give you these little tips or steps one day at a time, and you're just supposed to build incrementally on top of it. And what I realized with a lot of these books is not only was there good information there, a lot of times it overlapped. People end up saying a lot of the same things, or they like to talk in hyperboles, and they'll stretch a book into 120 pages when it should have been 12 sentences of what they were actually trying to say. And I've noticed that if you read between the lines, you can get the information, but I didn't like reading between all the lines, but I had to do it. So out of that came what I'm going to share with you today, which are called my 10 truths. That's Truths, if you can't understand my southern accent. Truths, not Utes, like in the movie My Cousin Vinny, but truths. And these are the truths as I see them. They may not be yours, but I want to share them with you anyway. I'm going to go through all 10. We're going to get a little bit of background in between them, and we're going to kind of go from there. So, number 1, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. Your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. And again, I challenge people all the time. I do a lot of public speaking at colleges and universities and corporations. And I ask, how many of you know what your greatest strength is? And then raise their hand. And half the people might raise their hand. The other half look around perplexed because they've never thought about it, which is fine. But what is your greatest strength? Have you ever really said, what am I really, really good at? And if I figure out what my greatest strength is, then, well, how can that be a weakness? And I've done this for a while. I'll use myself because people all the time say, oh, well, what's your greatest strength? My greatest strength is easy. I know it definitively. I am one of the best people in the world. I'm a glorified business development specialist. What's my strength? I can get to anybody, anywhere in the world at any level of any corporation, country, or kingdom I want to get to. I can open doors. I can get referrals. I can get introduced to anybody in the world I want to get to. And people look at you and go, oh my God, well, why is that a weakness? That can't be a weakness. Well, I'm good at opening doors. I'm not good at closing them. Meaning for me, the excitement of what my skill set is always trying to get that next new person interested, that next new introduction, that next new big company that says, yeah, this sounds cool, talk to me. And the analogy I use, again, I don't always use politically correct analogies. They're politically direct. They don't always go over as well in Los Angeles. When I'm in the South, they go over a little bit better. But my analogy is it's like hunting elephants in the jungle. All right. And if you understand big companies, like my friend Christopher Kai wrote a great book. I'm actually in it. That doesn't make it great. His book was great regardless of me being in it. But it was called Hunting Elephants, like big game. Big companies take a lot of effort. And my joke is I'm able to walk through the jungle and find big companies, but it's like hunting an elephant with a bow and arrow. If you shoot it once, again, not politically correct, I apologize. If you shoot an elephant with a bow and arrow, it will turn and look at you. Might charge you and get mad, but it will at least turn and pay attention. You can't kill an elephant with a bow and arrow by shooting it once. You have to keep shooting at it. What does that mean? Big companies are phone call, email, follow-up. There's consistent patterns and paths to be successful. And again, it's how I define the difference between business development and sales. Business development is opening doors, generating interest. Sales is consistent follow-up and closing. Can I close business? Yeah. Do I like it? No. Am I good at it? Yes. Is that my best strength? No. My best strength is generating interest on the front end and finding somebody else to close doors behind me. So basically what that means is I need to have somebody that closes doors. So what is your strength? What do you do better than anybody else? And then figure out what that is as a weakness and put people around you that are better than you in all the areas that you're weak. All right. Hopefully that makes sense. That was step one. Not step one, truth one. Truth number two, pain. I raise money all the time, and the venture capitalist guys say, oh, well, they sell more aspirin than vitamins. What pain problem are you solving? Well, if you think about that from a business standpoint, people do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. Whether that's in relationships or sales, we think about what's the pain point. And again, if any of you have seen my earlier podcast, episode 2, I sort of went through these 10 steps. And one of the steps is what's in it for you. Understanding what's in it for the other person. What's the pain point that they're trying to solve? It might be hitting a budget. It might be putting their kid to school. It might be going home earlier. People do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. So you really have to figure out what problem are you solving in business? What is the pain point for somebody else? And we learned this years ago. We had a company called Cineplex. It originally started out as ad snips. We were putting ads in the gap of a cell phone call. Nobody in the world's ever done it. We're actually the only company in the world that has ever done it. Company didn't work, unfortunately, but we were looking at selling ads. So when you hit send on your phone, you'd hear a little 4-second audio message before the phone rang. Went to a guy at Verizon, said, hey, we're going to put these ads in. What do you think? You know, he looked at me and said, well, did you do a focus group? I said, well, of course. What were your numbers? Meaning, how many people liked an ad? And I said, believe it or not, it was 95%. 95% of the people said, if you play a little message telling me these mobile calls are free, I don't care. And this was interesting. The guy's name's Gary Schulman from years ago at Verizon, looked at me and said, do you think 95% is good? Now, when somebody at a corporation sends you what is invariably a trick question, you don't answer with a yes, you answer with a, what am I missing? What's not right here? And I said, I don't know, Gary, what am I missing? So let me tell you how my numbers work at Verizon. This was years ago. He goes, we have 80 million subscribers, people using the Verizon phone. If 95% of the people like your little service thing, that's great. 5% don't. 5% of 80 million is 4 million people that are going to dial 611 on their phone to call a call center that the consumer thinks is free. It's not. It costs Verizon $15 a call. Let's do some quick math. 15 times 4 million is $60 million. He looked at me and said, you cost me $60 million to think about you. 2 million of the people are going to quit, drop out, drop their service. 2 million at $50 a month is $100 million. Goes, you think I give a crap about advertising? Now, that was a fascinating lesson because the model I had gone in was showing them how they could make $600, $700, $800 million in advertising. Didn't care. His pain point was customer retention, care, service. So again, figure out what the pain is. People do more to avoid pain than gain pleasure. That was a difficult, valuable lesson early on. Number 3, emotion. This is always a fun one. People make decisions emotionally and defend them logically. People make decisions emotionally and defend them logically. If you look at anybody, politics is a tough one right now. There's people on each side of the equation, and it's hard to argue with somebody. One, it's hard to argue with people when they're intellectually dishonest, when they just don't want to understand the other side. But the reason is they're emotionally tied to whatever position they're holding, and they will distort themselves to every difficult conundrum to argue a point because they're emotionally attached to it. All right. One that you can see a lot is when people are in love. You can, on the outside, you've got friends in a bad relationship. Boy, you can see it. The person in it's in love. It's emotional. They will argue every point trying to make a logical sense of an illogical emotional situation. So if you know that, you have to use it to your advantage, not in a manipulative way, but how do you negotiate? How do you better understand people? If you know they're going to make decisions emotionally and defend it logically, what's the emotional components that's driving that person? Whether it's personal or professional, it doesn't matter. We're driven by emotions. How do we figure out what those emotions are to make them better work to our advantage or to help the other person? Number 4, the truths are moving fast. They're coming quick. Hopefully they're making sense. Number 4, ask not why, ask why not. Ask not why, ask why not. And what I mean by that, especially again for entrepreneurs, when you say, I want to do this, I want to build this size company, I want to build this, I want to be this, I want to do this. There's all kinds of things that can happen. But you have to ask yourself, not why not? Why not it be you to be the first one in your family to go to college? Why not it be you to be the first one to build a company worth $1 billion? Why not it be you to be the first one to go back and donate to your school or build a church or library in your neighborhood? It's not why not can I do it? It's why not me? Why not you be the one that goes out and makes the changes? And it's something I created. Again, we're going to start putting slides up, but it's a thing I created. I'm writing it down here because this is going out of memory. It's a paradigm I created, a shift called a be, do, have. A be, do, have. And you start out and say, well, what do you want to have? And it's great. People go, oh, I want to have a big house. I want to have a nice car. I want to be rich. I want to have a great family. All right, those are the things you want to have. What do you need to do to accomplish those things? It's kind of like winning the lottery. When the guy prayed every day, God, please let me win the lottery. And one day the heavens opened up and this voice boomed down and said, hey, do me a favor, bud, buy a ticket. You at least have to put the effort in. So what do you need to do to have the things you want? But most importantly, what do you need to be? And B is you need to be the kind of person that's willing to do the things necessary to have what you want to have. It all starts with you. What do you need to be? What kind of person do you need to be differently? What steps do you need to do to hold yourself accountable to be the person to do what you want, to have what you want? And the reason that comes down into ask not why, ask why not it be you? But if it's going to be you, there's things you need to do to become successful. All right, so let's think about that. Number 5, truth 5. If you doubt it, no, if you say it, they doubt it. If they say it, it's true. You could tell people all day long, you've got the best service. You're the best this. You're the greatest that. You have the number. You can tell people all day long, if you say it, they doubt it. If they say it, it's true. This is why the recommendation engines on the internet were so fascinating when they came out. It didn't matter how great the restaurant said it was. The reviews are what were important. Doesn't matter how quickly you tell somebody that you love them. If they don't say it back, it doesn't matter. If you say it, they doubt it. If they say it, it's true. And the internet has really brought that forward in both a positive and a negative way. The review systems are fascinating because it allows other people to have a voice on what they're feeling about you, your product, or your service. And you just have to think about that. That's how do you control those points to put out a better product or a better service so people talk good about you and what you're doing and what you're offering. Doesn't matter how great you think you are. If you say it, they doubt it. If they say it, it's true. Number 6, this is a fun one, little bit complicated. I started out with what I call the 3 R's. And the 3 R's stood for recognition, referrals, and revenue. And I started out because if you're familiar with Maslow, we've got a psychological thing called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And one of the biggest aspects of need is recognition. And I learned this earlier when I was doing the sales training with Travelers Group. We would kill for a t-shirt. Not kill literally. Again, in this environment, we have to be a little careful, pedantic on wording. we would, I can't even say beat each other up. We would work really, really hard to try to win a t-shirt, to get the recognition of a t-shirt on stage in front of a couple hundred people. It was a $6 t-shirt. But the credibility, the aspect of being in front, that recognition was a big motivator. And so recognition, referrals, and revenue means if you're doing business with other people, we do a lot of networking, and there's always people. We actually do some great networking events around the world, and people are always asking me, oh, well, why don't you charge money, or what are you doing? And look, if I get recognition for putting on a great event, that sometimes in and of itself helps. If I get referrals for the businesses I'm doing or can help somebody else with the referral, that helps. And sometimes there's money to be made between the transactions, which are revenue. And that helps. And the reason I say this is fun and complicated is here in Los Angeles, we've got a great group. A guy named Ken Rakowski started it years ago. It's been around, called METAL, Media Entertainment Technology Alliance. And I was faithful to that group for years, 6.5 years or 7 years probably. I didn't miss a single Saturday. Great group. Ken does an amazing job, all men. But we put together this thing, and Ken, for some reason, changed it because one time I called it the 3 C's. And the 3 C's is stuck. And the C's and the R's are the same thing. The 3 C's are credibility or credit, contacts, or compensation. Meaning, if somebody made an introduction for you, if somebody helped you, if somebody did something really cool, give that person credit in front of a group. Give them that credit and recognition that not only makes them feel good, but gives them credibility for other people to want to work with them. You don't always have to pay people to pay them back. And that credit is big. And again, I'm big and fascinated in politics. I'm fascinated with sales. If you watch, the politicians are always giving credit. They're giving credit to their team or other people. People love hearing their name. So give somebody credit. Give them contacts. If they can help you and you can help them, make introductions. And then last, compensation. If there's a big deal that goes down, even if they don't ask for it, go back. Sometimes it's as simple as $100 or $1,000 gift card. Doesn't always have to be money, but just remember, credit, contacts, or compensation is a great way to build credibility within the ethos of a business system. And I know that Metal's done a great job with that. They still put the 3 C's up, I've heard, every Saturday. So excited about that one. Number 7 truths. Again, these are just mine as I've learned them and seen them and distilled them down through the books. Questions are the keys to the universe. Ask good questions. And again, those people who know me or that watch the podcast or over time, I am specific and pedantic on questions. The better the questions are, the better your answers are. And it's not just questions. Sometimes it's a feedback loop. It's a question. It's something Tom Hopkins used to teach us with a visual of if somebody asks you a question, right? Somebody says, hey, what are you doing on Friday night? Our response is, well, nothing. Why? Oh, great. Can you watch my kids? I don't have kids, but I mean, that was the joke we used to always use. Oh, hey, what are you doing on Saturday afternoon? Oh, nothing. Why? Oh, well, I'm moving. Can you come help me pack boxes? See, questions sometimes can boomerang back on you. So we want to boomerang the question. What are you doing this Friday night? Well, I'm not sure. What'd you have in mind? Oh, I need you to watch my kids or pack boxes. Oh, no, I'm pretty sure I'm busy. Let me get back to you. Questions help. Questions are specific. Somebody says, what do you think about such and such person? What do you think about such and such politician? What do you think about such and such musician? Go, wow, that's an interesting question. Well, what did you mean by that? Or what did you have in mind? Or what was the reason for asking? Like, get clarification. When somebody asks you a question, that's not really usually what they're asking or why. There's some subtext under that question. You want to reverberate that question back to them to clarify what it is before you answer it. You don't want to get yourself in a challenging situation. Again, I bring politics up a lot, politics stuff. What do you think of Trump? Wow, what an interesting question. Well, why'd you ask? You know, what'd you think of the Democratic debates last night? What do you think about what's going on in Sweden? What do you think about the riots in Hong Kong? It doesn't matter. Somebody's asking you for a reason. Ask better questions to find out what that reason is. Questions are the key to the universe. Get good at asking questions. Really, really, really drill down on the questions. Be better off for it. Number 8, begin with the end in mind. I know that's a Stephen Covey principle. I love it when I typed it and remanufactured and repurposed it into my 10 steps that I did earlier. I call it design your destiny. Again, though, it's just what's the end result of what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's being financially independent, which we've talked about before, whether it's building a specific company, whether it's the result of a particular sales call you're going on, or your college semester. Begin with the end in mind. Think about what you want your outcomes to be. Get really specific on what you want the outcome. And there's a neat little trick. It's from Jose Silva. Those of you may not believe in it, was Jose Silva's mind control method. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to read minds, and I think I got pretty good at it. I kind of know how it works. In a future podcast, I'll probably give you the secret to the secret and tell you how this stuff kind of works. But it's a premise, and it's neuro-linguistic programming. This is Tony Robbins, and the video's going, if you look up and to the left, it's how you remember things, and up and to the right, you're creating. And the Jose Silva mind method was fascinating. Not only did it try and teach you how to read minds, but taught you how to try and project. And it wasn't just being specific in your mind and having a clear intent, which Napoleon Hill talks about. No, what Silva talked about is up and to the left is where you look and you create, and then you move the picture in your mind up and to the right and you see your desired outcome. And what you're trying to do is program your brain to move your energy out to the outcomes you want. Again, maybe a little far out there, a little esoteric, but there's just fascinatingly cool stuff. And that's why I said I started dissecting and breaking all this down. So begin with the end in mind and design your destiny to me was, what do I want those outcomes to be? And then how can I project and visually see them? But the better you can see them, the better your pictures, the more visual you are, the more those clarities and things can actually happen in the future. And that's kind of exciting to do when you learn how to do it. Number 9. This is a good one. Actually, number 9 and number 10. Number 9 is on negotiation. These are my truths. Learn how to negotiate. Become a great negotiator. I was with a friend of mine the other day, Chris, and he's the #1 FBI hostage negotiator in the world. Super cool. The guy's negotiating. I mean, unbelievable. He's got a cool book out. Again, I'll put it up on the Bullseye Guy podcast. Maybe we'll have the Groove Radio guys here push it out. Chris is in LA, but it was fascinating. I talked to him and I said, oh yeah, I teach negotiation too. Yeah, he looked at me, sure you do. I said, I have a tip. I have a negotiation technique that takes me 1/4 of a second for somebody to learn. And he looked at me and he just laughed and shook his head. This was when we had first met, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let me tell you. And I shared it with him, and he looked at me and said, fascinating. Unbelievable. You're exactly right. And here's what it is. The tip is called flinch. It's the flinch factor. If you've ever watched Pawn Stars is a great show with Rick and the guys. It's on History Channel. And these guys have mastered negotiation. So flinch means if somebody makes you an offer, flinch. Ouch. Oh, pause. Here's what I mean. I'll do the best I can on radio here to get through. If I'm offering to sell you a car and the price of my car is $20,000. So just think about it. Just play along mentally with me. I have a car for sale. You come up, you're looking at my car. Oh, it's beautiful, nice. And you make me an offer for $15,000. So we're going to play. I'd play along with Eagle. He's sitting here in front of me laughing, but we can't do it. He's not mic'd up. But if he were, I'd say, oh, my car's $20,000. And Eagle would look at me and go, well, I'll give you $15,000. And if I said, oh, great, I'll take it. What goes through your mind? Immediately, think about it. You offered 20. I had 20. You offered me 15. I went, great. I could have got it for more. I should have offered less. What's wrong with the car? Why does he want to get rid of it? Is it broken? Did I not? All of those things go through our mind because you offered 15 and I said, great, no problem. If we did that same scenario and said, hey, 20,000, and I go, give me an offer, and you say 15, I go, 15. Oh, man, it's one of my favorite cars. It's my favorite car. I haven't driven it much. Boy, I don't know. Let me think about it. Even if I gave you the car at $15,000, you're going to feel better about it. The psychology of flinch. I could probably get you to move up from 15 just by flinching, but even if I don't, you're going to feel better because I flinched, because I negotiated. And it's not just there. Imagine the other side is if you came in and said, oh, this is a cool car, what do you want? I said, oh, well, what are you willing to give me? And you say, oh, I don't know, looks like $22,000. Great, I'll take it. Even if you offered me more, I still have to flinch because otherwise you'll think you didn't get a good deal. And I learned that when I was young. Can't go through the whole story, but I was in a negotiation. I was in my 30s. Guy made me an offer, and it was more than what I wanted. And I had negotiated on every point, probably down to the commas and the periods. And when he gave me the offer, I said, great, I'll take it. I'll sign. And in retrospect, he was a good negotiator. He's like, oh, well, hang on. Well, let me get back to you. Let's figure this out. And he actually went behind my back and negotiated with my partners. Why? Because he knew he could have got a better deal. If I would have just flinched, he would have thought, oh, he's getting a good deal. He offered me more. I still should have flinched. Takes you a quarter of a second to flinch. Doesn't cost you anything. Just flinch. If you're getting a job offer, imagine if you're out of college and somebody's offering you 75, 100, 125,000, and you wanted 75 and they offer you 100, you're not going to go, woohoo, you're going to go 100. Looks like a good offer. I've had some, let me at least think about it. I really like working with you guys, but boy, let me think about it. And inside you're going, holy crap, I can't believe they're going to pay me $100,000. Flinch. Always, always, always flinch. And the Pawn Stars are great. The Pawn Star guys, if you ever watch them, somebody walks in to sell an item, they're like, oh, you've got a great guitar. I'm looking around Groove Radio Studios here. I'm sure Eagle and these guys have guitars somewhere. Oh, you're selling. So do you want to pawn it or you want to sell it? Person says, I want to sell it. Pawn Star guys look at him, well, what do you want for it? Geez, I think it's worth $1,500. $1,500, man. It's missing a string. Color looks a little faded. I'll give you $6. The second part of learning how to negotiate. This one's a little tougher. If you ask a question, shut up. Sit. Again, watch Pawn Stars. They're fascinating. It goes, oh, I think I'll give you $600. And they give the offer and they sit there. And the other person on the other side of the counter, well, will you take $1,300? Got them. They're now negotiating against themselves, and you got them. What you don't want to do is go, hey, will you take $600? And there's silence, and silence is uncomfortable. People look around, they're like, oh, silence, I'm not sure. And the person that offered the $600 goes, oh, well, maybe I can give you $7 or $8, and boom, you're done. If you make a counteroffer, be quiet. Sit there. I sat in a meeting once, 8.5 minutes. Because the other guy was good in sales. He knew what he was doing, and I knew what I was doing, and we both knew, and we just sat there and stared at each other because we know he who speaks first loses. And it became a testament of wills, and we just sat there, and then we finally started smiling and laughing at each other, and then we laughed, and we're like, okay, let's just work this out because he made an offer, I made a counter, and I was not going to speak, but neither was he. So the flinch factor, just learn how to flinch. Super easy to do. Number 10, my 10 truths. 99% of the things you worry about never happen. So why worry? People get all caught up in things. Oh, well, what do you think about this? I don't. Well, why? Well, what about this? What do you think? I don't. Well, what do you mean you don't? I'm like, I don't. Can't control it. I'm so I was going to say bad. I'm so good at the 99% principle. I don't pay attention to the weather or time or age. By time, I mean I don't look backwards. Forward, I know exactly what's going on minute by minute forward. Somebody says, how long ago was that? I'm like, I don't know. I remember details. I don't remember time in reverse. Doesn't matter. As long as I know the detail, how long ago it was, half the time doesn't matter. I just walked in here in the studios. What's it like outside? Is it hot? I don't know. The weather's going to be what the weather is. I used to live in Chicago. Isn't it cold in Chicago? I guess so. Weather's going to be whatever it is when I woke up. So 99% of the things you worry about never happen, so why worry? And if you go back through a lot of things that worried you, you'll realize most of the time it didn't happen. But that 1% is going to happen no matter what, and that's what you have to learn how to deal with. It's that 1% of things that are really bad that happen, but they usually happen with or without you. And so that 99% is basically try not to worry. Again, there's hundreds of books on this. Don't sweat the small stuff. Just focus on what you can control and go from there. Those are my 10 truths. Hopefully you like them. What I'm actually going to do, I'm going to wrap up with a couple little tips in the next 3 minutes. And we'll probably go further in depth in these in a different one. But again, we do a lot of networking events. So here is our 2-minute closing on tips as we wrap this thing up. Actually, I don't think we're going to have time to do it. So maybe that's our hook. We're going to hook you in for the next one. One of our next podcasts is going to be how do you hack a networking event? We do a lot of networking events, great events around the world, get to meet amazing people, always trying to elevate the average of the people that we meet. But there is an effective way to do networking events. And by networking events, I don't mean little random meetups in your town. I mean big events, amazing, high-profile people. And there's some fun ways, there's some effective ways, and there's 1 or 2 ways that are deemed kind of creepy, but they're actually super effective if you know what they are. And I'll share those with you at a future broadcast, a future podcast. So wrapping up here, thank you for joining me. This is Steve and me with the Bullseye Guy podcast, and produced by Swedish Eagle and the crew here at the Groove radio stations in Los Angeles. Always excited to be down here. Amazing. For more information about this program, visit my website. It is up and running. It is now official. It looks great. Little panels, control points, fun stuff. TheBullseyeGuy.com. Steve and Meade. And if you like this episode, please subscribe and rate us. We're on iTunes. We have the videos out, but looking forward to the future. This is Steve and Meade again, the Bullseye Guy. Thank you.